Hey guys, Desolator Magic here. It is early 2016, and I've noticed a little pattern for the last couple months. You guys have probably noticed it too, considering the entire internet is on fire with this topic. Standard. How could I describe the state of Standard right now? I would say, for the highest level of accuracy, imagine the Hindenburg crashing into the Titanic, blowing it up, setting it on fire, starting it to sink, and then the Titanic, backs up and accidentally backs over Mother Teresa. That's what Standard is right now. And I'm not just saying that because I'm still slightly sick with a cold. Everybody has that opinion. Let's break down why that is. Now, people have been saying that Standard is too expensive forever. It's never true, except for right now. I mean, I even just said that in my video about Standard not being too expensive, that everything I said is not true right now. Right now, it's pretty much a catastrophe. And I know exactly why it happened. Some people are saying, well, why did it suddenly get more expensive? I mean, the box prices, the booster prices, they didn't go up. The card prices went up. Are the cards really that much more powerful? Well, if you look at them individually, not really. I mean, not compared to some of the travesties they printed in the past. So, what caused it? You know, most people are left scratching their heads on this one, but I figured it out. I analyzed it. I looked up why decks are working, why they aren't, what cards are going into expensive decks, and it actually makes perfect sense. And, shocker, it's all Wizards' fault. So here's how Magic was designed from a fundamental level. Let's say that you want to play blue. Okay, let's play blue. It's going to scry, it's going to draw, it's going to start arranging the cards in your deck, it's going to get you to the cards you want faster, and it's going to stop the opponent from doing what they're doing. It's either going to tap down their creatures, or it's going to just remove them, bounce them back to hand, or cancel them in the first place. So it's built to control your opponent, but the trade-off is just nothing for attack power. So the unwritten rule of blue is that the creature will never have an attack power higher than its mana cost. I mean, look up every single creature in Modern. There's 3 exceptions as far as I know, and they're all drastically, well, they have weaknesses, we'll say. Like, whenever they're targeted, poof, they're gone. So Dan, Frostwalker, and that giant illusion cloud, those are the only ones I know about. So you're going to sacrifice it. That's the rule of blue, is that it's not going to hit very hard. So you go to red, and what's the unwritten rule? It does not draw cards. It might very rarely scry, or very rarely put some kind of card in your hand, but that's it. So it's not going to arrange your deck. It's not going to go get what you need. It's not going to go fetch a card. But the creatures are super fast, hit super hard. They're for quick rushes, and a lot of the spells will burn the life total and burn creatures on the field, or do mass damage. That's what it's built to do. And then, you go to black, you got the black cliches, screw with their life total, bring out creatures that are moderately powerful, and then a whole bunch of nasty effects, like toughness dropping, like I said, life total manipulation, stealing life, raising your life, and, kind of diseasey, evil, make them sick, type of stuff, black stuff. So that's how that works. And of course the drawback to that is you're never going to have just a ridiculous combat creature unless it costs a ton, like it's a flying demon or something. So early game, it's just going to be really weak creatures. Now they tend to keep coming back, and the creatures aren't very important. So that's the theme with black. So they all, once you pick a color, they all have drawbacks. You're going to have a strength, and then you're going to have a weakness, which is great, because then if you're sick of top-decking the wrong card, well, play blue. If you're sick of never having enough early game combat, and your monsters just aren't any good in combat, you're lacking flyers, lacking double strikers, first strikers, see, you already know what I'm going to say. White, play white. Simple. If you want to remove a lot of creatures, but you still want to be creature heavy, go red. So you can play whatever play style you like, and there's 5 options, which means people play more kinds of decks, which means they buy more sleeves, they buy more cards, they play more often. It's great. Here's what ruins the game, and you're probably already knowing where I'm going with this. What if you could combine the power of all those decks? I'm not saying, literally play 5, because, there's some overlap between white and red, and, there's certain colors that kind of go together and certain ones that don't. So let's say you could take, the Anticipate card from blue, and you could, start arranging your cards and saving yourself 10 turns in a given game by ditching cards you don't need to the bottom, and then also have perfect responses to creature removal with direct damage or with exiling. Oh, but then we're also going to need insane creatures, so let's put in red, Well, there you go. You got Jeskai. I mean, you've got one of the top net decks, or at least it was recently, and then you've got Esper, which is really annoying. They even nicknamed it either Esper Control or Esper Dragons, which they're both control heavy, where they just don't let your opponent do anything. And while they're not letting your opponent do anything, they're getting out creatures that can really hit hard. And while they've got creatures that can really hit hard, they're arranging their deck to go get the cards that they need to screw with you even further. So it's a perfect cycle. Nobody can compete with it unless it literally just beats it on speed. Like if it was a mono red and you just run, like we're talking dash, menace, double strike, haste, that might have a chance of beating like Esper Control. Maybe the Mana Gorger Hydra, Avatar, the Resolute Hardened Scales deck, which is why I play that. But I've gotten beat a lot by the top net decks with that. It's a fantastic deck. Normally it would absolutely dominate, but they haven't answered everything I have because they're playing too many dang colors. It's just ruining the game. The game has colors for a reason, and letting people run 3 is absurd. It's completely absurd. In fact, somebody told me, oh, well, I'm running Jeskai, it's pretty good. I got the Mantis Rider, I got this, I got the Dragon, I got like 4 kill spells for this, for that, and I can do everything. Great. But I think I'm going to add black. I really just want Thoughtseize and this one other card, so I'm going to add black. Well, you're taking a 3-color deck and you're just adding black casually, and then it works just fine. Something is wrong here. You should not be able to do that. I mean, the original trade-off in Magic was, well, I'm going to play mono, and I'm always going to be good on colors. I can always tap the correct colors for the cards I need, because I just don't have to worry about that. Now, if I go to 2-color, maybe there's, 8 fixers, we'll say. There's 8 total, so 2 times 4 fixers, and the rest you just got to split your lands. Well, it's conceivable that 5, 10, 15% of the time, you're not going to have the right colors when you need them. So you'll miss 1 turn, and then you miss 2 turns, and you miss 3 turns, that'll cost you the game, just a certain percentage of the time. But the trade-off, because like I said, everything is trade-offs, your deck will be way more powerful. You'll be able to play the mixed color creatures, aka gold cards, and those guys are really strong, and then you'll be able to, take the best of one world and mix it with the other one, and if you do it right, you'll have a really good deck, but you might get color screwed, so you gotta watch out for that, and you'll always be 1 turn behind, because every color fixer comes in tapped. Well, not everyone, but that's, in general, 90% of them, that's what they're theoretically supposed to do. And that just explains another thing that they broke. Fetchlands, they just don't work. So, oh no, you're sacrificing your life total. They're probably playing white-black mix, and they're going to regain the life anyway. Who cares? Or their deck is just so perfect they're not even going to get hit. So that potential weakness of, oh no, they're using their life total. Oh, it's like a dramatic episode of the original Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon. Oh no. Well, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. Their life total means nothing. They're not going to get hit all game. And that really explains what's wrong with Standard right now. It's dominated by, I guess I'll say 3+ color, because, 2 color, yeah, okay, they're alright. They've always been alright, whatever. It's the same cause, Fetchlands and too much mana correction. But they did it on purpose. That's what really bugs me about this. Some idiot in the R&D department decided, well, what we haven't done in a while, in quite a few years, is 3-color. And last time 3-color, like, the shards, it didn't really take off that much because people kept getting color screwed. So what we need to do is let them fix their colors. And that was, like, lighting the fuse on the dynamite that they themselves are holding, and they blew themselves up. I really, really sincerely hope that the R&D department, or the head, the staff, whoever it is, got fired after Khans of Tarkir. And really even Dragons of Tarkir, the whole block. I mean, because it's just so stupid. They made it way, way, way too easy to get away with some really, really, really crazy decks that work way too well. And so everybody plays the same deck, everybody wants the same cards, they all work the same way, and Fetchlands hit $30 and nobody can afford to play Standard. Because normally, people, like I said, they say, oh, nobody can afford it. Well, just don't build the top net deck. Build some mono white thing with a bunch of aggro and just go win FNM with it. Well, you can't do that now. There's just no competing with these decks. It's just absurd. So apparently the research and development staff forgot that after Khans of Tarkir and Dragons of Tarkir and Fate Reforged, who cares about that, they had to actually print another set. Like, there had to be another set after that, and people might maybe take cards from the new set and put it in those other decks. In fact, people might take ones from before Khans of Tarkir, I know this is just mind-blowing, and use those in a deck. Like, they might build a 3-color deck that doesn't involve just Khans, FRF, and Dragons. I mean, they must have not been told that. They must have not known that, I guess. Because then you're like, oh, well, okay, Khans, it's cool. It's fun to draft it. Okay, the sealed. Oh, cool, 3-color. Oh, that's kind of neat. Oh, let's put in, like, Thoughtseize. Let's put in Murderous Cut. Let's put in Anticipate. Well, now the deck's just ridiculous. I mean, you're taking stuff that was never even designed to play with those cards and putting it in there. I mean, half the R&D's job is to make sure that the deck works in draft and pre-release by itself, and then half their job is to make sure that it works with the other cards in the past and the future. Well, oops, dropped the ball on that one. So you might think it's going overboard to say, oh, they need to fire the R&D guy. Guess what they did? Boy, I don't remember exactly when this was. I heard this. Haven't confirmed it, but people told me absolutely sworn up and down this is true. I think it was the Merit Lage fiasco that I keep talking about, but there was a couple times where everybody showed up to the tournaments with the same deck. We're talking 20, 30, 40% of people run the same deck. And, Merit Lage, as soon as that was discovered, everybody was running Merit Lage. You literally went on turn 3. I mean, it's idiotic. They publicly announced that they fired their R&D staff that was responsible for letting just crap like that get through. I mean, if your whole job is to make sure that there's not any unfair combos that win on turn 3 or unfair decks that just dominate, so that people just play nothing but mirror matches and they all get pissed off and it ruins an entire national tournament that costs like a fraction of $1 million to run, might get fired. Might see that pink slip coming. So they have, as far as I've heard, allegedly fired some R&D staff in the past because they're just idiots. They just have no concept of anything past just basic math, and they don't know how to play the game, or I don't know what happened. But like I said in this one, they forgot, oops, people might throw in cards from other sets that do completely different things, and might get a little bit OP. So until Con cycles out, Standards is going to be a disaster, and here's like specifically why. Here's like a timetable of what went wrong and when and why. So let's say a normal set comes out, and people want 20 of the cards. Out of all the rares and mythics, people really want 20 of them, which would be, usually it's out of 68, so that's a pretty healthy margin, almost 1/3, cool. And those ones, they go up in price, they hit like, $10, $15, whatever, or they start at 20 and they kind of creep down a little bit, because it's the obvious ones like Planeswalkers, where they're really powerful. Now people have 2 threats, they got the life total and the Planeswalker, so yeah, people want them. But let's just say, there's like, let's go with Drana, the new Drana. He was, 16, something like that, bucks? Because he's really good. He's flying his first strike. He gives a counter to everybody. He's powerful. But if you're not playing a deck that needs that, if you're playing like an all-control low creatures deck, you just don't need him. So not every single player wanted him. I mean, he was really good. He was in some popular decks, but nobody was like, oh, I have to have him. This is the card. Even Ulamog, I mean, not every deck can get up to 10 mana. Like, everybody's saying, oh, Ulamog's so great, he's so expensive. I mean, he very rarely spent a whole lot of time above 20. I think he's below it now. I mean, he's great, he's game-ending, but your deck has to be able to get up to 10. If you're not designing that type of deck, if you want to win earlier than that, then you don't need Ulamog. So they designed the sets purposely so that there's not a $100 card and they're all worth $1 past that. Like, you have to have this card and that's it. And that's why there's 60-card decks, unlike, other games which are 40, 50, and they're limited to like 3 repeats, and this one's 4. So it's one of those things where that they designed it specifically to be sale-friendly and friendlier to the LGSs. Because one person says they want Drana, one person says they want Ulamog, one person wants Mana Gorger, because they're all building different decks, and they're all good decks. They're nice and level, and there's not just the deck that you need to have with the cards. Well, lands are always a problem, because everybody needs lands. I mean, nobody runs just straight basic, just 21 basic lands. Just, that's my deck, 20, 21, 22 basic lands. You gotta have your like, Evolving Wilds, which, so they printed in a common slot so that people could play it. Oh, and then you gotta have, this, maybe the temples, okay, those are like $5-10. But there's 5 different colors, so that goes back to what colors are you playing. If you want Drana, you probably want, Temple of Silence with black in it, because you're playing black-white. So the color fixtures, okay, they're always going to be high because you take all the people playing, divide them by 5, and then they all want one, per group. assuming it was perfectly even. So let's talk about Fetchlands. They decided to bring back Fetchlands, which have arguably the most severe, but the most, like, able to be gotten around drawback. Because instead of just, I have to wait a turn, I get to scry, but I wait a turn, or I get to gain a life, but I have to wait a turn, or, I have to already have 2 lands on the field, otherwise I have to wait a turn because it comes in tapped. Oh no, I'm losing a life total, the one thing that's keeping me from losing the game. Well, you can get around it by just building a good enough deck where your life total doesn't mean crap because you're just doing so much better than the other person. And they aren't even going to touch it, who cares? So Fetchlands are just a free way to bring in anything out of your deck for 1 life, basically, which is nothing. I mean, it's just for free. You just, go get any card out of there you want. And then it thins your deck because you got rid of the fetch land, then you went and got another land out of it. So every land counts for 2, and then by that time you could go reasonably 6-7 turns in a row without pulling a single land. So the deck works just too darn well with fetch lands. And then, since they decided to go with 3 color, okay, now you need a bare minimum of 12 fetch lands. So instead of just, I need 4 temples, or maybe I'll go 3 temples, I don't want to get too crazy with it. Nope, now you need 12. You need 12 fetch lands just to build any deck. I mean, you go these 3, Jeskai, go Esper, whatever, you need 12, just whatever ones they would be. So they tripled the demand for it, and then on top of that, they decided, let's print them in the rare slot. I mean, if fetch lands were a common, great, there'd be OP decks, but at least they wouldn't cost that much. I mean, the number 1 cost is the lands. Very, very few of the creatures or cards in it are even above 15, really. I mean, with the exception of, like, I guess Jason, Gideon, but those were just weird. Nothing else really spiked up, because there were slightly, different ways to build the decks, but everybody needed fetch lands. That's tied to the color, not the, I'm going creatures, I'm going spells. It's tied to the color, and that's that. That's the only parameter. So if you're playing the color, you need the card. You just can't create that much demand for a rare. It doesn't work. And then, you've got your legendary mythics where everybody wants it. Oh my god, it's great, but it's legendary. So maybe you don't want 4. So it's just hyper crazy powerful, but instead of wanting 4, people want 2 for the deck. So that's how they kind of level it out. They make sure every card costs 5 to 10. That's really good. And they spread it out and make sure people want to buy them. But it just didn't happen with fetch lands. It just, everybody wanted them, everybody needed them. And that's that. And of course, the fastest way to piss off standard players and make them spend too much money is to print a card that modern players want, because now they got to compete with them. So, what's one of the number 1 cards in all of Modern? Fetchlands, of course. So, wasn't it nice they helped out those poor Modern people who were playing, $50, $60 lands, whatever. Modern's too expensive. All the cards were printed a million years ago. They know that. That's a whole different animal. So, when you start bringing that demand level in, and standard players have to compete with them, it's such a larger pool. It's just ridiculous. It just drives the price through the roof. I mean, a card very rarely goes insanely high until modern and standard people play it. Otherwise, it stays within reason, at least usually below $20. So here's why this really bugs me, this whole situation, because now, if you look at the top net decks, I know somebody broke them down really recently on YouTube, and they said, here's what they cost to build. I broke them down, here's the prices. It was like $900, $800, $600 for the top 3, according to some website. And then you go even down to 10. There's just nothing under $200. It just wasn't. And nobody should have to pay $200 for a standard deck. I mean, I thought it was a lot to pay about $100 for my Master of Waves Thassa Blue Devotion deck. And, that was just one of the strategies. So it was just a really, really good deck. But I had to pay over 10 for all the cards. So that's, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 80 right there. And then I had to buy the rest. So it approached around 100 with the really good anti-magic in it. And, Wall of Frost has been printed a million times. So it wasn't that. But it got expensive. But, I mean, $80. I mean, you're paying for F&M. You're paying for the sleeves. It's still cheaper than, like, fishing. I mean, you have to go buy a nice rod, you gotta buy the bait, you gotta buy the tackle box. It'd be great to have a boat, and other hobbies like paintball, paintball accessories, all the masks, you gotta buy the gun, you gotta buy the ammo. Hobbies aren't supposed to be expensive. It's not like people need to eat magic cards daily or they will die. It's not food. So, you don't have to spend money on it. It's a hobby. It's like a luxury item. It's what do they call that? A disposable income type of thing. So, just one of those things where you can't really say, it's just too expensive, it's not accessible, because, even $100 is not that high. $1,000 is, especially when you know that standard cycles and the cards are going to lose value like you wouldn't believe. I mean, if you're into shooting for sport, you go buy the gun. Guns don't really go down in price. They pretty much go up in price. You're going to spend money on the ammo, which is not that expensive, but at least you've got something. You know, it's just like if you buy a really nice boat, you can always sell the boat. So if you're spending $1,000 on a standard deck and then 4 weeks later it's worth nothing, or 3 months later it's worth close to nothing, oh boy, you've got a problem there. Not a popular hobby. I mean, that'd be like, my hobby is taking stacks of $100 bills and lighting them on fire just to see them burn. That's my hobby. You're right up there with it, playing standard right now. That's a little harsh, but that's the way I see it because, like I said, I like building cheap decks. Cheap. I like building good decks, but if the price tag gets too high, I'll flush the idea down the toilet and come up with another one, another perfectly good deck. You know, you don't have to build expensive decks. If you don't like the cost, build a different deck. I've always said that. So you take all these things together, like the inaccessibility of standard to, you know, long-time players, new players, the intimidation factor of how if they not run an expensive deck, they're not going to win, and the people complaining that they're wasting money on the standard decks because they wanted to win and now they drop $500 and then they know it's not going to stay at $500 very long, and everybody's pissed. So why is everybody so pissed off? It's because Wizards did this on purpose. They did it by design, and then they let all the errors through the process. So that, like I said, the whole Tarkir block was designed to work with 3-color, and then they thought, well, let's take the normal amount of color fixing lands and triple it, and then let's make some of the creatures fix mana, and let's, you know, have like filters and this and that and alternates and, you know, get rid of double cost, and they just made it so purposely easy to run 3-color. They did it on purpose. They designed the set to do it. You can look at all the cards as a whole and say they designed it to do this. And then you add in the fact that they have a room full of professionals called the R&D Department that are supposed to play the cards and play the cards and play the cards and run equations and do this and do that and just play test the crap out of them and not let things like this happen. They didn't think when they were designing it, man, people might take like M15 and Theros cards and mix them in, and then later people might take like Origins and BFZ cards and mix them in, and make a deck that's just OP as crap. I mean, that's their job, and they're not doing their job. That, when people don't do their job, it really annoys people. Like construction workers, if they don't do their job correctly, they're going to get honked at, and if they're in a big city, probably shot. So, you know, like I said, the R&D department, the staff, has been fired before for not doing their jobs. I mean, how do you even hire somebody? Do you get a mathematician, a statistician, a gaming expert, a logic expert, a programmer, an artificial intelligence guy? I mean, who do you hire? How do you hire them? I'm starting to feel like every other set, they must just fire them and get somebody new, and then they suck. Because a lot of the sets have been designed really poorly lately, except for OGW and BFZ. I thought those were lovely by themselves in their own block. Not so much when you mix them with 3-color, obviously. So you take all that into consideration and then think, boy, this is a disaster. It's a terrible accident. Oh, wait, no, it's not an accident. They did it on purpose. They crashed at Hindenburg in the Titanic and ran over Mother Teresa on purpose. This is by design. And there's people whose job it is 24/7 full time to stop this from happening. And they let it happen. Oh my gosh. So not only is everybody just livid at the state of standard right now, and they're quitting, and Wizards is losing money, which, hello, that's their number one goal, is to make money. I mean, yeah, happy players, make a good set, blah, but, you know, make money. That's what it's really about. And they're not doing it because they screwed up, and then they won't admit it. They will not admit, they never comment anything about standard being too powerful right now. They don't say anything about what they think about 3-colors dominating. They just say, oh yeah, that's the tournament, okay, it went well, great, oh look at the winners, cool decks, yeah, that's what we designed to do, cool. And then people go, you know, post comments, you know, tweets, all kinds of stuff on Facebook comments, you know, stuff on Reddit, and they snap at them, or they remove the comment, or they ignore it, or bury it, or whatever they can do, because they won't fess up to the fact that they screwed up the design. And people have said even recently, Wizards just doesn't know how to design a good set anymore. Well, they don't know how to design a set that's not too good either. I mean, obviously they did that. So that's my little rant about standard, so that now you know the full picture, you know the history, you know why it happened, how the prices got high, why the demand tripled suddenly, why everybody's so mad, and why it's 110% Wizards' fault. So make sure that to encourage them to not do this in the future, we send them lots and lots and lots and lots of feedback about what we think about their products. In fact, when they sent out a survey, oh my God, I bet they got some comments about that. That recent survey that they posted that had thousands of people take it, I'm sure every single one of them said, I'm so sick of the cost of standard, I'm sick of cards dominating. They're asking about the artwork and stuff, but they did open it up to comments. And if their PR department and their management see nothing but just straight up hating on their new sets, like cons and what is going on in standard right now, they just see nothing but negativity, they're going to take steps to do it. When they see their sales numbers, when they see the participation numbers, which are all computerized in the F&M system, when they see those start to plummet, they're going to do something about it, and this will not happen again. Now, since it's Wizards, it probably will happen again, but at least they'll put an effort to make sure that it's less likely to happen again, I guess I'll say. I mean, they've been printing crap sets and crap mechanics forever. Whoever comes up with these should be, like, shot, let alone fired. Like, in fact, and just flip cards and stuff. They must have been, like, on some kind of drugs or something when they came up with these ideas. But, I thought BFZ and OGW were great by themselves in their own block. I thought they were fantastically designed. Nothing is overpowered as crap in it. You're flexible to build whatever you want. The colors are clearly defined, and they've focused on 2-color, which is what they even said. They said, we want to go back to 2-color. Now, they won't admit 3-color was a catastrophe, but they did say they want to go back to 2. So I guess if I wanted to end on a positive note, at least they're going back to that. At least they got some sense knocked into them, and they're trying to return to the roots as mono is pretty good and safe, and then 2-color is playable, which is what I'm used to. That's how it's been ever since I started playing. So hopefully they fix it. Hopefully when Shadows over Innistrad comes out, and cons and FRF go away, dragons will still be legal, unfortunately, at that point. We'll stop seeing all this Fetchland crap, and people can get back to playing normal, enjoyable, affordable Magic.